Good evening, everybody. Today, I want to jump on here and discuss the Javion Magee case. So, what happened to Javion Magee is what we'll be going into this segment. So, if you haven't been following the headlines, Javion was a 21-year-old African American man who was employed as a truck driver, and I believe that he lived in Texas, and he was on a route uh, from Pennsylvania to North Carolina. So on this route, Javion actually made, I think, a stop at a Walmart store. But before he was set to stop at this store, a fact of this case that is clear from the press events that have been circulated in the news is that Javion was set to actually drop off a full load of goods at Walmart. And of course, I'm pretty sure if you've been following this headline, you understand that there is surveillance footage of Javion purchasing uh, a bundle of rope, right? And so Javion purchases this bundle of rope and I believe a couple of other small items and then leaves the store. After he leaves the store, I believe that he goes and he tries to uh, check into a hotel. So the hotel that he was trying to check into to get a room for the night was called the Hampton Inn. But the clerk at the Hampton told Javion that there were no vacancies. And so, from the publications and the stories that I've been reading, it appears as if Javion was compelled, or, because there weren't any vacancies in this particular hotel, is that he was compelled to sleep in his trucker, or excuse me, not trucker, but he was compelled to sleep in his truck. And so after he's slept in his truck, I think like the information that we are receiving as the public gets blurred. For example, there's information that is stating that Javion actually was in an area where he actually went into, a wooded area, and then he came back, and then he went back into the wooded area. So those are actually the facts of this case, but I want to discuss more about this and just kind of give my opinions on it. As you know, there is testimony or even statements from uh, police authorities in North Carolina that are stating that Javion unalived himself. They're saying that it looked as if it was uh, an unalivement, that he possibly unalived himself. Howsoever, the attorneys for Javion disagree with that conclusion. For instance, they say that the facts in this case is not consistent with someone seeking to take their own life. So what are the facts in this case? Javion was a 21-year-old. He did not suffer from any mental health issues. But on the note of mental health, we must be mindful that even if a person does have mental health issues, that is not evidence, nor is it indicative that the person is seeking to end their own life. Moving forward, the attorneys further point out that Javion was a trucker and he was doing well for himself. And uh, because he was a trucker doing well for himself and, uh, you know, uh, having, I guess, living the good life or just living a comfortable life isn't an indication that he would want to take his own life. And his family members had stated um, that they spoke to him, I think, a couple of days prior to the incident. Now, the attorneys for Javion, they do concede that right now it's too early to tell what actually happened. So they're not quick to say that this was a hate crime. They're not quick to say that this was a lynching because, of course, the the autopsy has not came back yet, and so they're waiting on that medical examination to be released and uh, to actually see what happened. But this got me thinking. So, what was pointed out was that Javion purchased a bundle of rope. But I argue that that purchase of a bundle of rope is not indicative, nor is it evidence that Javion was seeking to use it to end his life. For example, we understand that truckers in their line of work would need rope to tie on to things or to pull things. And the attorney told me, or excuse me, not told me, but the attorney expressed at the press conference that in this particular situation, or universally, that truckers have a universal key that opens all the trucks. So Javion could have possibly purchased the rope to secure himself within the where he was sleeping within the truck. Now, some people may say, well, the attorney said that Javion, was in an area where there was a lot of truckers, and that this was, in his words, truckers feel safer in numbers, right? But I would argue just because you feel safe in numbers, so you may feel safe that there are a lot of people around you, but that doesn't mean that you feel safe, that when you're asleep, that you trust, that you are trusting enough that while you're asleep that you can leave your doors open, or trust that no one won't disturb you or maybe attack you while you're asleep. You may feel safe that you're in a space where, like, there are a lot of truckers in case anything happens to you. There may be eyewitnesses to that event, right? But not safe enough to leave your doors unlocked. So, for example, I could just imagine, as many homeless people do who actually sleep in their car, they actually pull into Walmarts to sleep in their car. When I was a homeless person and I was sleeping in my car, I actually did that before too. I pulled into Walmart in my car and I actually slept there because I felt safe that, this was Walmart is 24 hours a day. I don't know if it still is, but of course, when I was there in the United States, Walmart was 24 hours a day. And there are, a consistent flow of customers going in and out of Walmart. So you feel safer that you know that there are people going in and out. There are security cameras. And although you feel safe and you know that people are coming in and out, that there's security cameras and, uh, you know, there's a possibility that someone may see. If anything happens to you, that doesn't mean that you're going to sleep with your doors unlocked, right? Or your windows all the way down. Of course, I didn't do that. I slept with my windows cracked open, but my doors were locked. So I think this goes to the argument that the attorney for Javion Magee makes, is that yes, he may have felt safe in numbers in this space where he was around multiple truckers, but not safe enough to where he would allow a person with a universal key to open his truck while he was sleeping. Now, there is other information that we're receiving, the public, of course, is that Javion was hanging from a tree, and not necessarily in the traditional sense, right? So uh, that could be for a number of reasons. Maybe he, during this process of what happened during this incident, uh, that didn't really hold its weight and he fell down. There's no information released to the public whether a branch was broken, whether there was a branch broken, and maybe that was the reason why he was uh, positioned under this tree. There is no information telling us if there is actually a rope that was hanging, how far up that was hanging. So that information hasn't been released to the public yet. And so the public is still waiting on that information. And I stand in solidarity with the family on this issue. I think that we should always question when our loved ones are missing and when there is an incident like this that happens to our loved ones. I think time and time again, we often take the media's word for it, or we often take the US government's word for it, that our family was suffering from a mental illness, that our family just wanted to end their life, that our family didn't want to live anymore. And ladies and gentlemen, we need to stop doing that. We need to really tap into the emotions and the feelings of our families and friends. We need to listen to their stories. We need to try and understand what they're going through and where they're coming from. And I think that the Magee family did the right thing here. They didn't accept this narrative that was being put out about their family member, whether or not it was, uh, whether or not it is the case. The family is demanding sufficient evidence to corroborate this statement that is being put out into the public. And I think that that is phenomenal for the family to do this in such a heartbreaking and distressing time, to stand up and say, okay, you gave me this information about my loved one, but I want evidence of this. I want evidence that this is really the case. And again, what we're being told from the family and their representatives is that Javion was not, uh, in a depressive state. He wasn't seeking to take his own life. There was no indication that he wanted to take his own life. And you may say, well, Kiana, sometimes there's not an indication that a person is wanting to take their own life. And I would argue that I think that sometimes there is. People will give hints to their family that things aren't going well. But even sometimes those hints, some family members will talk to their family and they will find that, well, no, this was just a depressing time. The person really didn't want to take their own life. The person was just really having a difficult time. They just was really frustrated and fed up with maybe an event at work or event in school or an event, in life. And they just needed someone to talk to. They needed someone to vent their frustrations out. And sometimes when people are venting their frustrations out, you hear information like this, but this information is not necessarily reality. It's not, or it doesn't paint the full picture. And not only does it not paint the full picture, but oftentimes it can be a cry for help. A person really does not want to end their life. A person is really seeking help, really seeking a sensitive ear, and really looking for somebody to hear them out. Now, again, the family reiterates that Javion was not a person who was suffering from a mental illness. And I think it's quite unfortunate, if I am to be honest with you, that time and time again we are seeing stories in US media that is attempting to push the narrative that Black Americans are mentally unstable, and that because of this trope and this stereotype about instability when it comes to saneness, that Black Americans would either not be able to interpret events accurately, not be able to understand events properly, and that Black Americans would take extreme measures to solve situational or social problems in life, right? And so I would say that it's important as well for the public to really pause and to give pause to this particular situation and to really be considerate of the feelings of the family, because sometimes the family really understands the heart of their family members. And that's not to say that all family members do, because sometimes not all family members do, but really to give pause and to really be empathetic to what the family, or even sympathetic to what the family is feeling right now and their experiences, and to really wait. We know in international law, under the Orentler principles, that families, they have the right to truth, they have the right to know. And in cases where there may be a cause of death, a death of a family member, the family that is affected by that uh, incident, that death, they have the right to know all the facts in the case. So I would argue that there are some facts that are being purposely left out of this case, and the attorney to this case references that, or actually makes note that this could be because they don't want to put out information that would curtail an investigation that would capture a perpetrator. And of course, that is reasonable. But again, we really need to look at this case and really ask questions about what we're being told. And I just think that's our responsibility as the public. It's our responsibilities as American citizens. And again, I'm just very concerned that it appears that whether this is coming from an agency within the United States, I can't point to a specific agency, but obviously we have a lot of powerful agencies within the United States. And I think that it's really frightening that what we're seeing in the news lately is where Black Americans are experiencing, where Black Americans are being either unalived or experiencing a violation of their human rights. And that violation of their human rights, that violation of their civil rights, or that violation of their right to life is being interpreted as, well, no, this person's right to life wasn't violated. Or not being interpreted, but being couched as, no, this person's right to life was not violated. No, this person's right to life was not, you know, you know, I'll say their right to life is not, infringed in any way, and their civil rights are not being violated or infringed in any way, etc. We're being told that, and we're being told to look the other way, because we're being told that Black Americans are not being able to fully handle life stressors, that Black Americans are not being able to, is what we're being told time and time again by agencies, powerful agencies in the United States, are trying to tell us that we as Black Americans can't interpret events properly, that we as Black Americans are unable to, uh, reason, that we as Black Americans are not intelligent enough, that we as Black Americans are not sane enough. And I think that we as Black Americans, we should start questioning these narratives that are being put to us about us. So that's what I have to say on this issue with Javion Magee. My heart goes out to his family. Condolences to the family. I really, my heart breaks in this particular situation, and I stand in solidarity with you. And I hope that the truth comes out about this incident, whatever that may be, that you get full clarity on what has happened to your family member, what has happened to your son, what has happened to your brother, what has happened to your cousin, what has happened to your nephew, that you get full clarity about what has happened to your family members, because you deserve it. You deserve to know the truth. And I stand by you while you're in full search of that. So I would ask everyone to subscribe to this channel at Real Kiana Canada. It doesn't take any time. All you have to do is click subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter at Kiana_Canada. That's Kiana_Canada. And you can follow me on Facebook at Kiana Canada. My link is actually in the bio here. There is something where my Facebook is sometimes displaying publicly, and then at other times it's not displaying publicly. So I would just call on you to add me as a friend if you want to see what I post, and look forward to talking to you soon. Bye bye. Till next time.